There is a space where you are all you need, where you are all you want. All there is here. Welcome to the Source Connection, conversations about who we truly are, the possibilities of creation, and the new earth we are birthing. With your hosts, Tara Long and Liz B.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to one more episode of The Source Connection, the space where we remember together who we are and what the possibilities are. Some people call me Liz. I'm here with my co-host, Tara Long, and our very special guest, Mr. Alec Zeck. Let's just take some time to ground ourselves in this now moment. If you're sitting on a chair, if you can put both feet on the ground, if you're sitting cross-leg position, just really feel your rooting wherever you are. And maybe bringing the eyes to a close and opening the inner perceptions. And let's just deepen the breath. Inhaling throughout our whole being and exhaling, dropping the pressure, releasing. If you're driving, do not close your eyes unless you have already developed a third eye to an extent where you can see through. Noticing the internal landscaping today, the thoughts, the emotions, the physical aspects of the bodies. And just dropping into this presence of you. And moving the awarenesses beyond the things that you can feel and touch at the moment and expanding. Tapping into the infinite awareness that you are. And just bring it into this time and space right now. Imagining a golden ball on top of your head. And as you take your next inhale, make this golden ball really big. So big that it's not sitting on top of your head anymore, but it encompasses all of you. And on the next inhale, make the golden ball reach even wider, stronger. and create a pulse with this light, with your heartbeat. And let's take a deep inhale together. Suspend that breath and bring that gold light inside of our hearts. And as we exhale, we let it shimmer out. Welcome again, everyone.
What a way to start a podcast. I want to start doing that. That was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. It's just one more way to just take a pause and remember, right? We're so busy all the time, so many things to do, so many tasks. And I had a friend actually tell me, I hate the way you start the podcast. And I said, why? Said, because I won't stop. And then she said, after maybe 2 or 3 episodes, she's like, oh, I actually really like this a lot.
Everyone needs it, even if they don't realize that they do, because we're all in this like go, go, go mentality. And it's what came up for me with that is like, so often I go into podcasts like, okay, what am I going to say? What are they going to ask? How am I going to respond to this? I'm going to respond to that. What if they go there? Can I cuss on here? Am I allowed to? Can I cuss? Am I allowed to cuss?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Fuck all of that, because it like just be you and share. Like for me personally, there's a reason you asked me to be on this show, because of how I'm showing up in the world, and that's coming from an authentic place. All I have to do is just show up and be me. I'm a dude with long hair who with a beard who wears backward hats, don't wear a white coat, but like talking about subjects like that. So thank you for having me.
And it's all you're so welcome. It's all accepted here.
Yeah.
Alec, we would love to hear just from you whatever you feel to share, like what brought you to this now moment with us, and if you want to share anything else about yourself.
Oh man. I've been reflecting a lot lately on what I like to call my deepest why, like why I'm doing what I'm doing, right? Like why I'm showing up in the world as I am. And that was brought on by a really good friend of mine. Her name's Tara Pilling. She was one of the co-hosts for the live stream event that we just did. There's a surface level reason, right? Like where you ask, oh, why do you speak? And it's like, oh, to help the world, right? Like, or everyone will throw out their surface level answer, but there's always a deeper reason. Everyone always has a deeper reason. And so she took us, each of us through this process, getting to your deepest why. And what I discovered after some tears, really getting to the deepest why, is because in my life up to this point, I'm 29 years old, I've been through some deep, dark trauma. And trauma is relative, all of us have. But what I've done is I've transmuted that trauma into purpose, into passion to help other people. I've shown that you can go into the depths of darkness and you can transmute that, you can alchemize that to become something, to become a tool to help other people. So I think that's ultimately why I'm here on the show with you all, is because I've been there, I've experienced it, and I know that I'm not who I am despite it. I am who I am because of it.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, guys, this is it. This was a great conversation.
Yep,
We'll see you
that's all
next
we
time.
need. That's all.
I have to say that when I don't know what to say. Like, all right, yeah, wow. I love what you said, because it ties in with the idea that I live my life by, that life is happening for me. And it helps me to remember that the trauma the situations where I felt uncomfortable or still do feel uncomfortable are in my favor, right?
Yep.
There's something trying to emerge through that. And with that, what are the qualities that have emerged for you, or the expressions of you that have emerged through this alchemy that you just described?
Oh man. One that's popping up for me lately, because I went through a significant amount of childhood trauma and was really immersed in my parents' relationship, and I shouldn't have been, right? And my dad was also very physically, verbally, and emotionally abusive to me. My mom was negligent and codependent, more focused on fixing my dad, and completely absent as a mother for basically all of my childhood. And through processing a lot of that initially, I jumped to completely despise my dad and only like would only speak with my mom and only support my mom, and that my dad was all bad, my mom was all virtuous. And not to say that my mom isn't. She's an amazing person. What I've learned though is that there are always, how do I put this? People are acting out of their own trauma, their own the information that's been pressed upon them, their own conditioning, their experiences. And most of what is done in the world, when something is done to you, is not done from a malicious place. It's not done maliciously. It's that something was going on inside that person that caused them to act out in a certain way out of fear, either to try to, you know, I don't want to say manipulate, but manipulate the perception of them, or try to make people think a certain thing, or they were scared about one thing, so they did another, or they had so much rage build up inside them because of what they had experienced that they projected that onto you. The point is, what I've learned is that my dad, for me, as my example, was doing the best that he could at that time with what he knew how, as was my mom. And that's not to excuse them or say that they didn't do anything wrong or that I wasn't harmed in the process, but it's that they weren't doing it maliciously. And I think even with this COVID situation, people tend to get into this frame of mind where they're blaming doctors, where they're, calling doctors evil, they're calling government officials evil. And like, yes, maybe some of that is true, and maybe some of the behaviors are, without question, right? Like the results. But a lot of them are doing the best that they know how with what they have at that time, right? And a lot of them are also acting out of fear for various reasons. And again, it's not to excuse them, and it's not to say what they're doing is right. It's just when you understand the deeper context of what is happening behind the scenes, and you can put yourself in their shoes, you can come to a space of acceptance where you aren't in a state of rage and you aren't lashing out because of what they are doing. And when you come into a state of acceptance, then you can say, okay, take a breath. Now I can see what they're doing and why they're doing it. Okay, how do we heal it? Versus when you're in that state of I don't want to say denial, but it's almost a state of denial, or like, how can you be this way? I can't believe you. You're so fucking evil, this, and that. You're still focusing on that, and you're so laser focused on it to where you're actually perpetuating it rather than accepting, okay, this is how things are. Maybe this is why they're doing that. Maybe that's why. Maybe they didn't look at it this way. Maybe they've never had an experience in their life that has allowed them to see through the illusion, right? And when you can come at it from that frame of mind, then you can actually begin to create and take steps to heal it. And it starts with that acceptance. So that's the space that I've really come into, I'd say more so this past year. And it started with me analyzing my childhood again, and my, my relationship with my father, and coming to understand that some of the reasons he was doing what he did were because he was a person that was in pain. He was a person that was in fear, right? So I think now I'm able to sort of see that show up in my own life in the world with everything that's going on with COVID, and It's so much easier to navigate all of this when you just accept it. And people confuse acceptance for allowance, right? Like, it's not that I'm allowing further atrocities to be committed or exposing myself to that for no reason. It's accepting that things are the way that they are right now. Okay, what am I going to do about it moving forward? And it's not like, oh, like, it's not enabling. It's not like I'm enabling them to continue to do this. I'm still setting a firm boundary that, no, you will not continue to do this. Here is my reason why I'm going to authentically share my perceptions, my, information that I've come across, and I will not allow you to continue to do this, but I accept and understand why you are showing up in the world the way that you are.
Yeah, so much there, Alex, so much richness there. I think this whole, COVID thing has been such a reflection for all of us, right? First and foremost, to look in our own lives and our own trauma and our own wounds and all of that, because this is just basically everything in a magnifying glass, right? It's just everything in a magnifying glass. And I love the perspective that you've come to now. And it's so much more peaceful, isn't it?
Yep.
And carrying around all this this hate and all this stuff. And someone that Liz and I love very much, she always talks about not rejecting and not accepting. So it's kind of a neutral space where I'm not saying like that's what you're talking about. We're not allowing, we're not
almost like an acknowledgement in a way.
Yeah, it's like that's happening. Okay, cool. We see it for everything that it is. We know it's there. We're not saying no, you assholes, and we're not going, yeah, that's totally cool. It's like that, just the space that you're talking about, and allows us to see all beings still with love, because even if they're not acting in their highest potential, right, which so many people are not, it allows us that opportunity to be more peaceful and loving in ourselves, which then of course extends.
And I don't think that it's not all black and white. It's not that what I said a couple of minutes ago applies throughout. There are, at least in my perception, likely people who are acting evil and maliciously intentionally, right? Like, that is fundamentally, I won't say fundamentally who they are. I still think that there's an element of they are actually love and awareness at the depth, but they are showing up in this world and they thrive off of that, if you will, right? However, even in our own individual lives, we can look at those types of people. I'll go ahead and name names, like people like possibly Bill Gates and Klaus Schwab, people like that who, or maybe even Hitler in the past. As dark as Hitler was, and as dark as the result of what Hitler did was, it forced a lot of people at that time to look and be like, okay, this will never happen again. It unearthed a consciousness that was permeating much of the culture at that time, or the civil rights movement and the Jim Crow era, or even previous to that, slavery, right? It forced people to acknowledge the darkness that was there and say, okay, what am I going to do about it moving forward? So with this COVID situation, I would have never connected with people like you had it not been for Dr. Fauci, Klaus Schwab, and Bill Gates, and whoever else you want to name. I would have not connected with people like you. I would have never formed Health Freedom for Humanity. I would have ended up working a normal 9-to-5 job after I got out of the Army. And now, because of this situation that does have real elements of darkness and people are suffering, I want to be clear about what I'm saying here for anyone watching or listening to this, is I'm not saying that what happened during Nazi Germany, what happened during slavery is excusable, or that it was right. That is not what I'm saying. It was dark and it was horrible. Some of the most wicked acts that have ever occurred in modern history, right? Without question. Yes. But what was the result of that for the people who were around at that time or were, exposed to it, is that people were forced to turn inward and acknowledge their own darkness and say, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. It's just like I said earlier, it's that acceptance. And then you can look back and say, as crazy as this is, I am sort of grateful for that experience because it propelled me forward to become better, because I saw the depth the depth of the wickedness, the darkness, the pain, the suffering, and it propelled me forward into the depth of the light, the beauty of the light, if you use it properly. So it's the same thing with this COVID situation. I've become almost grateful for Klaus Schwab, grateful for Bill Gates, grateful for Tony Fauci, because had it not been for them and everything that has occurred this last 2 years, I can't believe it's 2 years. Everything that's occurred this last 2 years and is still happening, the richness in my life, I don't think would have showed up the way that it is.
Yes. For every force in the universe, there is an equal amount of force, right? That keeps the balance. And that's what I hear you describing, of like the depths of the darkness that we can witness in this life also propels the depths of the beauty and the exquisiteness of the experience. And I'm right there with you on that. And you talked about propelling you, and I see the way forward right behind you. Can you tell our listeners? I know what that is, but can you tell them what that is?
Yeah, so it's been on pause till recently, actually. Like the live stream that I did this morning was the first thing that I've done with the way forward for like 4 months. So I started this with a friend of mine who does all like the creative design process and stuff behind the scenes, and I'm just the voice, and I have guests on. We have a podcast, and we say, essentially, to sum it up, is that the way forward is turning back inward to yourself and understanding that like we are fundamentally love and awareness, and conversations expand from there. And we've gone into health, we've gone into disease, we've gone into consciousness, we've gone into a number of topics, but all focused on like getting people to turn back to themselves as their own source of knowledge is the fundamental thing that we want to do. And we have a clothing line on top of that we've started that's 100% organic cotton shirts that are handmade in Bali, dyed with plant pigments and water-based printing. So that's we have 2 t-shirts that are out that say love over fear on the front that are all handmade, pretty incredible. And we're going to continue to make stuff with that. So that's what that is.
Yeah, and it's our twin podcast, I guess.
I know. I was going to say it's so aligned with the source connection, which we're just pointing you back to your
Maybe
own
that's
source.
why this conversation is already so easy and free flowing. So
maybe.
Yeah.
You talked about the apparel line, and I just want to say that I love that shirt that you wear that just says "Be free," just right here, right? It's right in the center
No,
of
I was going to wear it today. No, I have it. I'm wearing it to work out today. So yeah.
Love that shirt.
What is the website where people can find that, just so we say it?
Yeah, if you go to thewayforward.com, and forward is spelled FWRD.
Okay.
Yeah, thewayforward.com.
Okay, cool. Just so we can put that in our show notes.
And if you want the Be Free shirt, that's at healthfreedomforhumanity.org.
Okay.
Let's talk about health freedom for humanity.
Yeah, that's my next question. Is just, has that shifted intention, mission, operations in light of recent events, which you do or do not have to talk about, but just what's happening?
Yeah, well, I'm fully open to recent events. So depends on what you're referring to, but it might have been the Robert Malone situation that happened. Yeah, okay. So we're still working on how to move forward with that internally. I think Jeff has already sort of responded and made it clear that that was a mistake on his part, in that was his personal perception of the situation. And then he sort of projected that, either intentionally or unintentionally, I don't think it was intentional, onto the entire organization as if it represented our whole organization's opinion of Robert Malone. And that's just not the case. Although I will be clear, personally, I do share a lot of the same opinions on Robert Malone, but I'm not public about them because that's for me, and that's where the disconnect was with what was published. So aside from this situation, which is being handled, we're on good terms now with Robert. We've cleared it up behind the scenes and everything. Health Freedom for Humanity, I started this organization alongside several other people, so-called social media influencers, who are speaking out against what's going on in the world. Around November of 2020, and we didn't officially launch until January 2021. So I saw a need for, it was originally just supposed to be an online thing, like an online grassroots movement showing that there's people from all walks of life, from all backgrounds, all races, religions, socioeconomic backgrounds, political affiliations, gender, sexual orientations, just human beings from all walks of life who fundamentally wanted the same thing, and that is the right to choose what is best for our own health without coercion or force. And so I reached out to several people and I said, hey, will you be a part of this organization with me? And we had a group of roughly 30 at first, and we launched and we started a podcast, and we were just trying to get as many other influencers on board with us as we could to show like, hey, there's such a diverse group here. It isn't only super far right leaning Trump supporting QAnon conspiracy theorists who care about health freedom. It's such a ridiculous, narrative that is being promoted in the mainstream. And we exploded pretty rapidly just because we were doing it differently than other health freedom related organizations do. Not to say that those ones are bad or that we're better. That's not the case. It's just that a lot of the other ones are focused on petitioning the government, asking the government for permission, contacting their congressman. And that has its place, right? That definitely has its place. But there wasn't enough just focusing on like unity and uniting people and creating community around that concept. We never intended to have chapters, but we had so many people reaching out to us like, how can I get involved? How can I get involved? And to be honest, I was like, I have no idea how you can get involved. And then someone brought it up to us, said, why don't you start chapters, like local chapters? And I was like, yeah, but what will they do? And I thought, and I was like, well, they'll just create community. That's what we're doing online. It's the same thing. Let's just like have our chapters create community. And it's sort of just grown and like reoriented, but still based in the same fundamental thing. It's uniting people from all walks of life for health freedom. And so what our chapters are doing and what our like future direction is, if you will, that we're actually building behind the scenes. This is actually good because I can use this as a pitching opportunity and you guys can tell me what you think. This is good.
Yeah.
So we've been thinking like, what does it mean to be a member of Health Freedom for Humanity? And we have, we have our chapters. We have 21 state chapters and chapters in 3 countries, and we're growing as fast as we can because we have a very small team behind the scenes who's actually like on salary, and we rely 100% on donations. So that's the other piece, because we don't want to be like pushy towards that, but that's just the reality of our organization. We're a 501c3, so we rely on donations to operate. So what does it mean to be a member of Health Freedom for Humanity? And this is what we've really been focusing on to build behind the scenes. We're creating, I hope no one listens to this steals this idea if it is a good idea. That would really suck. So,
well, he's already patented the idea. Whoever you are listening, it's patent.
Yeah, it's already patented. You can look it up. It's patent number 75. No, I might do that. But so to be a member of Health Freedom for Humanity, you will have access behind the scenes. And like to be a member, all it takes is that you are a recurring donor, whether that's $2 a month, $10 a month, whatever it is, whatever amount you feel that we deserve as an organization to be a member of our organization. And behind the scenes, you will get access to over 50 brands, roughly like probably 50 brands that you have discount codes to shop there that are aligned with our organization. Mm-hmm. And then you'll also have access to courses behind there. But then more importantly, you will attend any Health Freedom for Humanity event, whether national or on your local chapter, completely for free, because it'll all be funded by those recurring donations. And we have our chapters are doing monthly events. There's actually one in California coming up from our California chapter on March 19th in Fillmore, California. We're going to release details about that soon. Our Kansas chapter just had an event last week. Our Illinois chapter had an event 2 weeks ago. Our chapters are meeting every so often, and those will all be free. And they'll fly out doctors, they'll fly out farmers, they'll bring in experts on whatever topic to come speak to people to help empower them for solutions, right? And then we've already started this kind of in the Kansas City area. If you're a member of Health Freedom for Humanity, there's businesses that you can shop at and get discounts to just by being a member of Health Freedom for Humanity. So it's us showcasing like, hey, these are the businesses in this area who are oriented towards health freedom. you can shop there with this discount code. And then those businesses also are highlighting us like, hey, here's this organization. It's a community of people. If you shop here, you'd probably like to shop at these other locations. This community of people is all very like-minded. You can join that community. All you have to do is donate whatever amount you want per month to be a member. And then what that will, as we continue to grow, our vision for this organization, again, being very solutions focused, is that at our local chapters, we're setting up healing centers. We're funding projects for community gardens. We're funding projects for homeschool co-ops. We're trying to help people understand, just like that shirt says, that they are free. Be free right now. You are already free. You don't need to ask the government for permission. We just need to actually take the steps to make ourselves self-sufficient and free right now, to ensure that freedom is happening here in the present moment. So there's my pitch. That's what we're doing behind the scenes with Health Freedom for Humanity. And with that, so our definition of health freedom up until recently has always been the right to choose what is best for your health without coercion or force. We've also adopted a second definition that we're using. We'll be using both. It's the right to know and access what produces and maintains mind, body, spirit wellness. So it's focused on like, okay, what information and how can I access those things that actually maintain wellness? It's not just the right to choose. True health freedom also involves the right to be healthy, like what it takes to be free and be healthy. So that's where we've sort of reoriented as an organization behind the scenes.
Wow, that sounds awesome. And it's like almost like a beehive type of collective.
Yes.
Collaborative project where it's like not that old motto of just like, okay, how can I benefit from this situation and make the best out of it for myself? But how can we start to create these new paradigms where when one is supported, all is supported, right? And it starts a different dance amongst people. And at least that's what I hear.
Absolutely. And that's where we want that list of like the places you can shop at virtually. We want that list to be like 1,000 like companies long, where we're showcasing all these companies who are, health products, goods and services, even courses from other people. We have one person who teaches a cryptocurrency course that we're inviting we're setting up a discount code with him behind the scenes for our members. And it's just setting up this community that's all supporting each other.
Yeah, it sounds super extensive, the whole paradigm shifting in every aspect. And it's like Liz said, it's like community. It's not just people coming like, how can I consume this information? But it's like, I am a co-creator in this. And that's what I always envision, the world that we're creating now. It's so much more of a collaborative effort. And no one's at the top of that, which I think is really, really, really important, that we're all just coming with our full selves and that we all have equal value. That's also what I hear. So
absolutely.
That's really cool.
Thank you. So you like the idea? It sounds good? Because we're building it right now.
Good. Yeah. Maybe I'll have to do a tenant. I looked on your website and there actually isn't a Tennessee chapter because there's no impulse, right, to really have one because
that's such an interesting point. It's like the only place this isn't true for every chapter, but the main places we have chapters are the like states and areas that need it the most. That's where the chapters are popping up. And like we have one here in Kansas, but I'm in Kansas, so it makes it easier because I can like really like run this like, hey guys, let's create this community. And most people are like, why? Like I just have to wear a mask every so often. You know what I mean? So it's different where you were. Not obviously you're in Tennessee now, so it's not. Yeah, it's probably the same thing as Kansas City. But
it's still neat. I mean, people think, oh, just because I'm not being asked to do something, but this is a whole like shift of our entire lives. Not just because people are asking us to wear mandates or get a shot. This is like, what do we really want? We want to be close to nature. Well, that's what I want. What do you want? What do we want? So this is applicable everywhere, all over the whole world, not just where.
Yeah. And as you stated too, with the second statement, about accessing that, because I feel like the shift is in remembering who we are at a level that we decide, I don't have to numb out anymore. I don't have to pretend anymore. And so how do I find like-hearted, I like to say, individuals to support this, who are also in this path of remembering together, right? That we have within us all that we need. And so it's just this collective organism that starts to shape around this new paradigm that we're all, really here for. I'm really excited about the Renaissance, because think about it, every time, we've gone through collectively as humans, as men and women, through moments of oppression, what comes out of that is just so heartfelt. Amen. And it's so grand, again, because of this equal force, right? Balancing everything out. And so
where there's collapse, there's room for creation. And that's what's happening right now. It's like society is collapsing all around us. And you can view that as like, oh my God, everything's fucked. We're all gonna die. Or like, wow, it needed to collapse so that we could birth something new that is so much better.
So much better. And in every area, every system.
Yep.
And the conversations that we're having, and the effects of this, and I hope that we can continue to enjoy it, to the best that we can, because at times it's trickier, it's a little harder, or it's a little, we need to do certain things and to move forward, right, that are not the most comfortable. And yet that's where we keep finding our resilience and our strength and our courage and everything that's really amping up what is it that we want. Mm-hmm. So it's fascinating to see this thing just kind of almost like a mosaic just start to unfold and connect. And as you said, like, had this not happened, we wouldn't be having this conversation here, which is also fine. But what kind of life experience would we be having? It's so rich right now. It's Amen. So rich on Amen. So many levels, right? That I'm like, I don't want to go back to anything that it was before.
Not a chance.
No, I know for a fact. And like, I already had many of the same perceptions, not all, but many of the same perceptions I do now prior to the start of this whole charade. But even with those perceptions, I was still, too scared to speak about them. I was in a shell pretending. I was in the Army. I knew I wanted to get out of the Army already anyway, but I was going to go work a 9-to-5 engineering job somewhere with some engineering firm. And I'm so happy I'm not doing any of that. Like, I could not imagine. I will say there's been times as I've been building out Health Freedom for Humanity and everything that I'm working on over the last like 6 to 12 months, where I've been like, I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to leave. But my soul knows that I'm supposed to be doing this. So anytime I've tried to step away and just be like, I'm done with all this, tired of the conflicting personalities, tired of having to deal with adults who are at odds with each other. Every time I've tried to step away, I can't. And it's not that like I can't, because I could. I can step away if I want to. I can go work an engineering job. I mean, I can go back into the matrix, so to speak. But I literally like know in my soul that I cannot do it every time I try to step away. And even like my wife will be supportive of that and be like, yeah, like I'm just seeing how stressed out you've been over the past month, this and that. Like, maybe you should go get another job. And then I'll get up and give a speech, and then she'll pull me aside afterwards and say, no, you're supposed to be doing this.
Who are you kidding?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what else would you be doing? Really?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm not going to go sell cars at my dad's dealership. That's for sure. I'm not doing that. So
you said something that I would like to go back to really quickly. You said something about, kind of speaking out, and maybe I wouldn't have been doing this or any other thing. But I remember how I came across you, and it was through your mom, and the eloquence of your speech. So my question to you is, and I told you this when I met you, I was like, it was from your heart to my heart. There wasn't trying to sound a certain way. There wasn't, if I put this word with this word, right? It was very, to me, because I'm very sensitive. So it was like, oh, here to here, like, I get it. How did you, I guess my question would be, when was the turning point for you that you're like, you know what? I'm not just going to say what I'm really thinking about all this? If there was a
No,
moment.
I mean, there wasn't like a moment, but it was just a process, right? So like I was in this program in the Army called the U.S. Army World Class Athlete Program, where if you're on a U.S. national team for any of the Olympic sports, like on a U.S. team for like U.S. Olympic team, you can do that full time for any Olympic qualification period. So I was on the U.S. national team for a sport the two of you have probably never heard of. It's called team handball. It's huge in Europe, huge in South America. Not very big in the US, but it's a game where there's a goal on the ground. There's a goalie. It's 6-on-6. You throw the ball into the goal. On defense, you can hit. So it's really fast paced, similar to like basketball or water polo on land. So I was on the US national team, and I had the opportunity to essentially train as a professional athlete for 2 years, right? Like I didn't wear a uniform, was out of a normal Army job. I was a field artillery officer prior to that. And I had already started going down the health rabbit hole, if you will, in like the nefarious nature of the pharmaceutical industry and all of that around 2016 when I first got into the Army, because that was when my mom started to heal and my wife also started to heal. So I'd already seen that. But then when I was in this program in the Army, I had so much more free time because I would show up to practice in the morning, weights, film, practice later in the night. But then besides that, it was my time to do whatever I want. So I spent a lot of time with my wife, with my family, but also was forced to not be in this go, go, go mentality. And I had to sit and begin to process the trauma that I had experienced and go deep into that. And the deeper I got, I mean, obviously it was really difficult, like the dark night of the soul, right? Like everyone, that's difficult for anyone, you know? And I got to this point where I remember getting off of a session with the trauma therapist that I was working with. Her name's Tammy Joyce, incredible. I actually have a episode for my podcast, The Way Forward, with her. I want to say it's one of the first 15 episodes. And I sat down, I was bawling my eyes out, and I was like, I have no idea who the fuck I am. Like, I have no idea. I've been trying to pretend to be this, pretend to be that this whole time. And I sat there and processed it for a little bit, and I was like, no, now I can be me. And it didn't, like, I didn't really know what that meant, but it makes sense, especially in hindsight. I can be whoever the fuck I authentically want to be, as long as I'm remembering who my soul is, and that is love and awareness, and in setting my intentions based in that. It's always based in love and awareness. I can be whoever I want to be based on my unique and authentic perceptions, the information impressed upon me, my experiences, and share that with the world. So I hadn't spoken about anything related to health or consciousness or anything like that. I would share with friends behind the scenes and stuff like that. But when this COVID situation happened, my mom already had a social media following and was speaking on, previous to COVID, just the psychiatry side of things, like psychotropic medications, benzodiazepines, SSRIs, their harmful effects. And then when COVID hit, she started speaking, and she would message me and bounce stuff off me because she knew that I had researched vaccines and disease and stuff like that already, because we had already had our kid. My son is completely unvaccinated. So it got to a point around May of 2020 where I could not shut up anymore. It wasn't like, oh, I'm scared to, I don't want to speak yet, I shouldn't. It was that I was holding myself back because I was in the Army. I was like, I shouldn't do this, but I have to. Like, I have to do it. So I started speaking, just because I saw it as, you know, I had dealt with manipulation, gaslighting, abuse, and scapegoating, and, you know, being the child who they sort of pushed all of their pain on. And I dealt with that. I dealt with seeing two people that I love inside the traditional allopathic system where they were perpetually ill. We're about to put my mom in a long-term facility because she was so mentally unwell, just how dark that was. And then seeing both of them heal via natural means, and then also begin to process their own trauma and then heal that way, and seeing just the power of nature of what we are, right? And those three things applied directly to the COVID situation. So I just couldn't shut up anymore. I wasn't holding myself back out of fear. I was holding myself back out of like, should I do this? It's going to piss a lot of people off, whatever, I have to say it. So I started speaking, lost a lot of friends, but even when that happened, it wasn't that they like were like, you're a freaking idiot or anything like that. They just kind of stopped talking to me. And it wasn't really sad for me because I looked at it as like, we just don't resonate with each other anymore. And I'm shedding, layers of what people thought I was. Like, you thought I was this. That's not me. So I'm sorry that the previous version of Alec or the person I was pretending to be no longer fits into your frame of mind of who I am. Or I no longer fit into that, that frame of mind of who you thought I was. So that just slowly faded away. And then I've attracted people around me who are real. Like, it's been amazing. Just like with you two, when I first met Dr. Standenham, when I first met Ben Tapper, when I first met all these people in this space, it was like we've known each other forever. There was no like awkward, like small talk. It was just like immediately, and we had talked online before a little bit, but when we met in person, it was like we had been best friends forever. And that's how it always is, because it's attracting real people into your space. And that just confirms that like, I am on the right path here. I'm being authentic and true to myself, and I'm sharing my perceptions, but I'm not doing it from a position that is shaming, that is othering people, that is making people feel like shit about themselves. I'm just speaking my authentic perceptions and sharing them with the world and encouraging other people to do the same thing.
Right. Yeah. And thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That was amazing, Alec. And this kind of leads me to one of the questions that we like to ask people on this podcast is, what have you learned about yourself in the past 2 years through your exploration of truth? Things that maybe, because I know a lot of people, like for me, to like things that surprised me, or like, whoa, I wasn't totally in touch with that part of myself before, So what have you learned? What's maybe been surprising or just like awesome?
That's our new last question.
That is a tough one. Let me think for a second.
Yeah,
really trying to feel into like what
have you learned about yourself?
What have I learned about myself?
Through the exploration of truth. Yeah.
That there are so many layers to things, and it really, at the root, comes back to I don't know. Like, anytime we are certain of our perspective and that our perspective is the only way to view things, the universe, God, whatever, will show you a perspective that's like, here's something else to consider about this. Like, either it shows up in your life, or maybe you come across it via information. Usually it shows up in your life, though. Like, you were so certain that this was the way to look at things, and then this shows up and you're like, oh, wow. But even like the exploration of external knowledge, what I'm seeing a lot of people do in this space, and this sort of relates to the Robert Malone situation a little bit with Health, Freedom, for Humanity. A lot of people who claim to be free thinkers and critical thinkers have simply transferred their consciousness of blindly outsourcing to the allopathic side of things, the pro-government side of things. And now they woke up to that situation. They were harmed by that situation somewhere along the line. And now they're over here blindly outsourcing to Robert Malone, Peter McCullough, Sherry Tenpenny, even Dr. Tom Cowan, Dr. Andrew Kaufman, even sometimes people outsourcing to me. And they're missing the entire point. The point is to cease outsourcing altogether. And that's not to say you don't listen to what other people say. Of course you should listen, but you should filter it through the lens of like, what do I think about this? What are my perceptions of this? What does this piece of information truly mean to me? How does it apply to my life? Rather than just blindly accepting what someone else says. And that's been one of the things that I've had to learn, because I first came across, and this could be a whole three separate podcasts here. I came across the germ versus terrain theory thing. And I will say, the deeper that I go into that topic, and I have basically obsessed over it over the past 10 months, the more and this is where it gets tough, because you could say certain, and that's where like something will come to bite me in the ass later on. The more I'm pretty confident that viruses as pathogenic disease-causing agents have never been shown to exist in nature, in the fluids of a sick host, as they say it does. And there's other plausible explanations for what caused disease. And then the use of materialistic sciences to try to prove something that is happening in a complex physical, spiritual, emotional, chemical, energetic, electric being is just ridiculous as it is. But what I've had to do in this process is stop outsourcing even to Dr. Cowan and Dr. Kaufman, because I would, be challenged on my perceptions, and like I hadn't deeply explored the topic myself. So I would, go email Dr. Cowan when someone challenged me, but what about this? Right. And then it came to a point, and this is why I have so much respect for Dr. Cowan and Dr. Kaufman, is they finally they would highlight in a study where like, oh no, this is where they're wrong. And I'd be like, okay. And it's helpful to do that sometimes, but I was doing it so much that I was outsourcing them. Like I was just regurgitating what they said instead of learning it myself. Right. Yeah. And Dr. Cowan was like, Alec, you were smart enough to learn this yourself. I went and just like immersed myself into that topic, and I feel confident enough to talk about it. But the thing that I'm most confident about is that I don't fucking know. Like that, I am so confident that I don't know. Like I hear even, this is a separate thing, but it relates because it's like very conspiracy minded, where people are like, oh, the shape of the earth is round. The shape of the earth is flat. Like I'm certain. Here's the proof this way. Here's the proof that way. You're a conspiracy theorist. No, you're propagandized. Like it's ridiculous. I'm in the space of, I don't know. And I'm deeply exploring everything. And it's so funny because I went to a dinner the other day, and someone brought the topic of the shape of the earth up. And I straight up said like, yeah, there's actually a lot of evidence or inconsistencies in the math that surround the shape of the earth being round, right? Like there's a lot of inconsistencies there. Here's some pieces, but I really don't know, because I've always perceived it to be a globe, but maybe it could have been the information impressed upon me. And I'm truly sitting in the space of I don't know, and I'm openly sharing about it. But it was so funny. And I was around people who are, free thinkers and freedom oriented, but even you could see the looks on some of their faces, like immediately like, no possibly way, where they were in that state of like, they were so certain it has to be this, like it's certainty. And you could see they were uncomfortable, where I was sitting in the space of, I really don't know. Like I have no clue. And it's just fun to be able to explore, like, could be this, it could be this. I have no idea. And I felt fully free. And when you're in that space of I don't know, and you're not self-identifying with it's this or that, you are self-identifying with the process of exploration, the process of continued study, the process of perception. Then you'll forever be perceiving, exploring, and studying, rather than self-identifying with this one thing that you have learned, with that one thing that's been impressed upon you, that one perception, that one experience you had. Just the process of doing those things, you will forever be open to all possibilities, and you will forever be learning. And that's, I think, the main thing that I've learned about myself in the past 2 years.
Woo! I'm not going to hold
myself. I just threw up all over you, so hopefully that made sense.
I'm not going to hold myself back, because I've done that before. I love you. This is
Thank you so much, Liz.
Thank you for saying that. And the space of openness and curiosity is really what propels us, right? To keep on discovering and exploring and not being stagnant.
Yes.
Wow, that was such
that's freedom. Like you said, that's freedom, right? Just when we're open to and curious about things and not identified with a belief. Whew.
Amen.
Yeah, that's freedom.
I love both of you too. This is awesome. This is really good. This is like a very heart, like I feel this was awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
So awesome
for coming, for saying yes. And I sent you a message. I was like, I'm gonna find him, because
I know Liz was like, I'm going to get him.
Did you message me on Telegram too? Yes. Okay. Now I remember that too, because I remember both experiences now.
Because, this, I think we're talking about the invisible thread, right? That connects us all at a level that we can't explain. As you said, like, how would I have known that I'd be sitting here doing this? But it's so real, and it's so true, and it's so meant to be. And I knew when I saw you that day at the Heart of Freedom, I hadn't thought about that before. And I've been following you for a long time. I said, I told Tara, I said, I'd love to bring Alec in our podcast. And I was thinking about different ways to invite people, because I'm thinking these people get, requests for podcasts. I mean, probably every day or every week. And it must be overwhelming to choose. Where do you want to engage? Where do you want to, spend your energy and that exchange? And so I told Tara, I said, I want to do a video message now. If anybody's doing
It
that.
felt so like personal. And that's why it triggered in my head. I was like, I'm pretty sure she sent me a video message on Telegram.
Yes.
It was like, I get emails all the time, and sometimes it'll be from someone's assistant, and I'm guilty of that too, because I fully get it, and I have no, I don't judge. The more I've immersed myself in that space, I literally have to. Like it gets overwhelming, but it's when people approach me, person to person in a very personal way, that I'm like, wow, this person is really is interested in what I have to say. I want to give this person my time.
Yeah.
Like it's not even a question. I just know that I'm supposed to talk to that person.
Yeah, and you said yes right away. And it's just, I feel like we're tapping into this inner knowing that we've been talking about, that is not here, right? There's a deeper calling that's having us create this conversation so we can broadcast this signal to people who do not have a chance to have these conversations in their personal day-to-day exchange. And so grateful that you said yes and that you came. And I have a feeling that this is going to branch out into different things, into different collaborative efforts. And I'm grateful for what you're doing and for putting your voice out there. And thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you both for having me. This was awesome. This is awesome. Seriously. I'm not just saying that either. Like I feel like so good in my soul. A lot of the times I'll get off of podcasts and be like, thank God that's over. This was awesome.
Let's name
we don't want that. And maybe this is just part one. Who knows?
Maybe. Yeah. That'd be awesome. We could go deep into virology. If you
want. We actually wanted to ask you that, but we just ran out of time.
I assume so. Cause that's like all anyone wants to interview me about lately. And I've
no, we want to get to know you first, but
this is a good change of pace. This was awesome. Thank you so much.
That was one of the questions, but we kind of have figured out this beginning, right, with this meditative process where we can really just arrive in the moment without preconceived ideas about before or after or something that we are trying to get to, because that's not it. We just want to be together in this moment and then let it unfold. So we always have some guidelines of ideas about why do we want to talk to you, right?
Yeah.
It just kind of leads. And that was one of the things, but we didn't even get to it because it wasn't the time to do that.
Good.
So.
Yeah. No,
wasn't in the flow.
And I can just come back. So.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Alec.
Everyone.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.